Today we're going to go over an effect where when you get low on health, you'll get a visual and audio indicator, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then if we heal up, it goes away. All right, so that's what we're going to go over today. So let's get right into it. We're going to need a few things. We're going to need an image made with Photopea. We're going to need material parameter collection. We're going to need a material. We're going to need a post-process volume. We're going to need an audio device, a level sequence, one cinematic sequence device for each player, and some verse code to put it all together. And I'll go over all of those. First up is Photopea. That's a free photo editing platform, kind of like Adobe. What we're going to want to do here is make a vignette. So we'll go to new project, YouTube. Let's call this vignette. And we want a transparent background. Hit create, go to the rectangle, set fill to none. So we get basically a completely transparent square and drag it to the whole area. Right click on the background, go to blending options, go to inner glow, change that to black, change opacity to 100%, spread to 33%, size to 200, and range to 100. And that's the effect we're looking for. File, export, PNG. It should already have the name we want, and this should go right to your downloads folder. So we're going to hit save, and now we've got our photo. Next thing we want to do is create a material parameter collection inside UEFN. This is going to allow us to manipulate the transparency of this image on the fly. So in UEFN, I'm just going to create everything right in the root here just to keep it easy. Material parameter collection. I'm going to call this vignette mat param. Open that up. Add a scalar parameter. Let's name that opacity and save. All right, next we need to bring in our image that we created. And we need to create a a material for our post-process. So material, and we're going to call that post-process material. We need to change the material domain to post-process. We need to add a linear interpolate. Add that to emissive color. Add a component mask. We need to change that so it has the B enabled. Add that to the A. And we need to add a scene texture node. Add that to the color. And change the scene texture ID to post process input 0. Next, we need an add node. Let's add that to B. We need a constant vector 3. Oops. Add node actually goes down below. Let's change our constant vector 3 that we just created. Let's change that to red. Now we need a texture sample. That's going to get in the add, and we need to change that to use the vignette that we created. Now we need a screen aligned UVs, and we connect up the top one to the top one. Now we need a material parameter. Oh, what did they call that? Collection parameter, that's what it's called. Collection parameter. Choose the vignette material parameter that we created before and choose opacity. We need a multiply node. Not that one. Hold M and click. That's the one we need. Opacity goes into A. Let's link this up to B. And now we need another texture sample. Let's actually just copy this one. Control C, Control V. Let's link up the A to the B on the multiply. And change that to all right. I got a little concerned for a minute because it looked like it wasn't working. But the reason that we're not seeing anything is actually because of our collection parameter. So let's actually go back to that. Let's open that up, change that to 1 so our opacity is not clear. So what you'll see here is if we play with this, one is where we're going to use it later. So our material and our parameter is all set. Next, we need a post-process volume. So we'll close this, add volumes, post-process volume. And here, there's a couple of things we're going to change. Search for infinite, turn that on. And we need to go to the material. And we need to add the material that we just created. So we're going to asset reference and post. That's not how you spell post. Post process material, just like that. And just so it's not there all the time right now, let's actually set this back to 0. Perfect. And our post-process volume is all set. Next, we're going to need an audio player device. Pull that out of here. Audio player. That's not how you spell audio. Audio player. We want to set the sound. Which one? Let's use that one. I like the volume to be really loud for this and can be heard. Needs to be instigator. Can be heard by instigator. And play location needs to be instigator. That should be everything we need for the audio player. Now we need a level sequence to start tying some of this stuff together. So back in our project folder here, let's get rid of that. Right click, cinematics, level sequence. We'll call this vignette sequence. Let's open that up. We want to add our material parameter. So material parameter collection track. We need to add our audio player, which we can actually just drag and drop. And we need to add our post-process volume, which again, we can just drag and drop. On the vignette parameter, we want to add opacity. That's going to start at 0. Oh, let's actually change this here to show time as seconds. It's much easier to deal with. Let's change this down to 2 seconds. What I want is just like that. Now for the audio player, let's add a gameplay event. And for the post process, we need to add blend weight, and we need to add, what's it called? Weight. Where do they put it? I think it's this one. Yep. So that was under post process materials. We're going to add, these are called keyframes. We're going to add a keyframe for all of these. Halfway mark. We want to change the opacity to 1 and add a keyframe. And then for the audio player, let's go back to the audio player, click on the keyframe itself, right click on it, go to properties. You want this to be play. Go to the blend weight. We want that first one to be 0. We're going to go to the halfway point, change that blend weight to 1 and hit keyframe. Let's go to the end. Let's change opacity to 0 and add a keyframe. Change blend weight back to 0, add a keyframe. We can just add a keyframe there, and that should do what we want it to do. But let's actually hit the play. Perfect. So let's save that. All right. Next, we need a cinematic sequence device. So we can close our sequencer. Let's go down to the devices, cinematic, drag that out here. You're gonna need one of these per player because it seems like you can't play the same one more than once. So if you have two players that both need it at the same time, you're going to need one for each player. So we choose our sequence. Visibility is going to be instigator only. Loop playback you want on. Let's see if I missed anything. That should be it for that. Now we need to actually we have to go back to the audio player because the audio player will keep going um, if it stops halfway in the middle. So we're actually going to come to the audio player, hit stop, choose the cinematic sequence, and say on stop. This will actually stop the heartbeat sound when the cinematic is stopped. Next, we need to set up our verse code. Part of this verse code was just taken right from Epic's website. We're going to use something called stacks, which I won't get into much here, but that stack code was taken from here. I cover all that here if you want to learn more about how stacks work. So we're going to go to our verse explorer. Let's create a new verse file. Let's create a blank one, and we'll call this low health alert. We're going to create it empty. I'm just going to copy and paste a lot of code here because I don't want to type it all over again. Let's open that up. Those are the modules we need to include for using. This code here that I'm about to put in here all came from that website I just showed you. This is to facilitate the use of stacks. Basically, the reason we're using stacks is as players join and leave, this will manage issuing them a new cinematic sequence and putting the cinematic sequence back in the pool um, again as they come and leave, come and go. So then we're going to make a creative device. So we're using editables for our spawn pads. I normally use tags for that, but I don't want to get into tags in this video. So for simplicity, I'm just using editables for the spawn pads. We're going to use an editable for the low health amount so that when we get below that amount, it'll trigger the sequences that we built before. These are the sequences themselves, so you can use the UEFN to add those to this device. This is what's going to manage our stack from this code up here. And then we're going to have a map so that we can keep track of which cinematic sequence device has been assigned to which player. In the on begin, we're going to first create our stack. This is basically taking the array that we created and then creating a stack from that array. We're then going to monitor spawn pad events. And when spawns happen, we're going to make sure that a cinematic sequence device is given to them. So here we're checking to see if there's already a map for that player. If there is a map index, and if there is, we're not going to do anything. If there is not, then we're going to add them to the map and we're going to assign them a player sequence. I mean, a cinematic sequence. Now, anytime you're doing maps, you're going to want to make sure, especially player maps, you're going to want to make sure that as players leave, you're cleaning that up. And so that's what this is. And then we're going to want to keep track of when the player is damaged, when the player is healed, and when the player is eliminated. All of those things are going to change or could change if the cinematic sequence should still be shown. And so that code is here. Kind of scrolling through it so you can get a good look at it. We'll save that. Close verse. Go up to the verse option up here and build verse code. Now we have a creative device that we can drag out into our world. We're going to give it a spawn pad. I'm only going to use one spawn pad here. We're going to give it a cinematic sequence. Again, we're only using one. If this was multiple players, you're going to want one of those per player. Let's save that. Now let's give ourselves a way to get hurt. So damage volume. Let's put that right here. We want it to be visible so we know when we're in it. We're going to change the damage to 30 so we don't have to wait very long. And then let's give ourselves a way to get healed. I like to use the fire pit for that. And I don't think, let's see, actually, we're going to change some stuff here. I want to make it so this just burns forever and ever. So start lit, campfire. Let's actually do 10 health per pulse. Wood is disabled. I think that should work. Let's save it and see what happens. So I'm going to launch session and I'll be back when that's up. All right, we're back. And I found one thing that I want to change, but I'm going to show you why I want to change it first. So we'll start. Now I always like to respawn here because sometimes in a creative session it doesn't use the spawn pad. So I'm going to respawn. And the visuals, it's all working well, except the heartbeat is a little off. And I'll show you how I fix that. Now if we go and heal up, you'll see that it all goes away, just like we want. But I'm going to end this and adjust the audio player to play a little bit slower. If we change this playback speed to 0.8, the heartbeat sounds a little bit better. So we'll push those changes and we'll be back. All right, our changes have been pushed. Let's hit start. Again, I'm going to respawn just to make sure that the spawn pad is triggering putting my player in the map. And then let's see how that sounds. I think that rate of the heartbeat is a lot better, a lot cooler. So we go back and we heal up. There we go. All better. And that should cover everything you need in order to do this in your game. If you found this helpful, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I do have a bunch more tutorials planned. Thanks. Bye.